Hey everyone, Maurice here. Hey, I had this ball bearing. It's been rolling around everywhere, and I didn't really have a place for it. I was doing some 3D modeling, and I was like, man, this would be really cool if I could just kind of make a catch-all tray, just specifically for this ball bearing. And so that led me into this 3D surface that just sank in the middle, and I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if it had a 3D grid? So I started modeling and I completed the file and I was like, yes, let me go ahead and try to see if I can make this. If you're interested in the file, it'll be on my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the comments. But yeah, so there's basically three ways to make this. One, you could glue veneer, and that's the option I went with. Or you can V-carve those lines and then paint the lines that are left over. Or the third way is to, still have to CNC, but use your laser if you have a P2 from xTool and follow that curvature. So there's different options here. I went ahead and I went with veneering inserts in between each one of these blocks. Super critical to make sure everything was aligned properly. Everything was in depth. And when I used my laser machine to cut these inserts, I wanted to use as much material as I could and not waste a whole lot, because veneer is pretty expensive, and matching this with aspen wood, it's basically poplar, kind of a wood that they just, it's a completely different grade of wood, and aspen is a little bit more soft. And when I started machining this, I could definitely tell the difference between the hardwoods that I use. Speaking of hardwoods, hey, so this purple heart that you're seeing here that I'm using for kind of a jig, there's a huge crack, and these are offcuts, and they're almost waste. I was going to cut them into inlays, but before I did that, I was like, this thing was perfect to make sure that the edges just didn't bow when I started clamping this down. If I was to clamp without those, there's a good chance that I would bow those corners in, and everything would get really funky, and it just wouldn't get aligned. But using that, and because it's so hard, everything stayed very true. Everything stayed very square, and it was a really good way to cheat. But for the purists out there seeing that purple heart as a jig, please don't firebar my house. Like, it's basically firewood almost. But with that said, it was very fast cutting these, especially, doing the cuts for the vertical lines and then the horizontal lines, making sure that everything aligned properly. I just wanted to keep everything square. And the inserts of those veneers are right around 0.02 in thickness. That's basically a pencil width line. So to match those between 14 different pieces definitely takes a little bit of planning, a little bit of patience. That's one of the reasons why I'm using this specific glue. This is a slow curing, like a slow clamp time glue that doesn't set right away. So it gives you just a little bit of extra time to work with the material, make sure everything is good. If I was to use Tybon 3 or something, it would have been a disaster. So a lot of prep went into making sure all those lines got configured correctly and they align properly. And in the end result, if you do that, it really does pay off. So some patience and taking your time really goes a long ways with doing a glue up like this. So when I did glue it, I ended up having some squeeze out, and it basically just sealed those purple heart inserts in. I was originally just gonna whack it with a mallet, and I decided against that and just cut it off because I didn't want to damage the veneer or break a seam or something, because again, veneer it's delicate, and the holding strength there isn't a lot there. But once you get this portion, that's really the hardest part. If you can make it past this point, the CNC file is very intuitive and very systematic. I ended up getting some new clamps. It's been years since I've had new clamps, and these Crush It clamps are super awesome. I'll leave a link in the description. This is a Carbide 3D product. Super awesome. I'm just so glad I actually went out and just got it. But it's been years since I replaced my clamps. But using this jig, here in the next couple days, I'm just doing all the CAD work right now. I'm going to post that file if anybody's interested in that jig. That is a super good, just pressure fit jig that if you're doing double-sided machining, that holds that center very, very true. And when you flip it, you don't have to re-zero your XY. You just re-zero your Z, your depth of cut between the bit change, and you're good to go. But yeah, I'll leave a link in the description for that if anybody's interested. I use that for the wavy flag puzzle build, which, by the way, that thing is still going. If you guys are, if you're new to the channel and you're just seeing this, watch my previous video, not the last one with the CAD work, but the wavy flag video. I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll also put it at the end of the screen at the end of this video. But that's a free giveaway, and all you have to do is be a subscriber, comment on the video, and you're automatically entered to actually receive that thing for free as a free drawing. So, and that gives back to the channel, and I really appreciate all the comments. Everybody I had a lot of positive feedback on that specific build, and so that's super exciting. But back to this, the double-sided machining with that jig and just center punching everything, or center zeroing everything, just really worked out really, really well. What I really like about this model is everything is 0.5 thickness all the way around that border of that holder. The middle portion where it dips down, it actually stretches and it gets thinner at the bottom. So I thought that was a really cool feature. You can't really see it, with the finished product. But if something was to go downwards like that, as it goes down, it will thin out. And I thought that was pretty neat. A little bit of sanding. So this is all end grain. I basically just made a cutting board and then cut a 3D profile into it. But again, aspen it's a really soft wood, and it doesn't take oil very well. And the only thing I had was oil. The thing it does do good with it, you can stain it, but I was not going to stain this. There was no reason to. The contrasting lines with the base material really pops and looks super awesome. But again, with the lines, if those lines didn't match up, like it'd be a disaster, and it just wouldn't look good. And that effect it wouldn't be there. For the base, I just went ahead and made a simple base out of walnut with pegs holding the actual holder up. So it's off the base and it's suspended in air, which in itself gave it a really cool effect. But again, like I was saying, the oil just didn't seep in. I didn't take it very well. The walnut definitely did. But yeah, that's all I had on the time. And this is just going to go in front of my computer and something for me to visualize and kind of a conversation piece with myself to try to induce some more cool designs, or try to be a little bit more creative. But yeah, so I'm pounding pegs right now. This thing will get attached, and then it's basically done. So it was a really fun build. Again, if you guys want to try to make this, the files are available on my Patreon. Definitely check that out. I think I kind of cracked the code on pricing and all that other stuff and what you guys get for value. There's basically just two options. There's one tier, and that's a flat rate. But with that flat rate, you get everything. You get all my files for free, and I think there's more value in that. And the other option is just if you want a file and you don't want to buy a tier, you can just buy that specific file. So it's pretty cool. It's something new to me, and I put a lot of time in the files to make sure everything was good. And there's not a file that is on there that I haven't personally built yet. So they're definitely tested. But yeah, so with this, I mean, everything is basically finished. And again, if you're brand new to the channel, definitely subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks, guys.